Hey, I'm loud.
Hi.
Hi.
You're just very excited for this topic, I feel like.
I am very excited for this topic because it doesn't get talked about enough.
No, it kind of doesn't. And I know we were just sitting here kind of talking about it, and it's just the whole suggestion of, why don't we just record this?
Yeah.
Because I don't know why this feels like so much more of a taboo subject for some reason.
Yeah.
And yet it's not. It's weird.
I think just for me, it's kind of personal. Anyways, right now, I'm trying to explain to Abby historically butch and femme relationships within lesbians.
Well, that's not the taboo subject.
No, that's not the taboo
I want to make that clear.
Well, to some people it is actually.
Talking about gay history is taboo?
That specific subculture is a little bit, because basically, simple terms, 1950s, women, lesbians who could pass as men, and then femme lesbians who could who look like women.
Yeah. There's no outward indicator that they're gay or anything like that. Like, no one would suspect them of anything.
And then as things moved into, feminism and, like,
women could wear men's clothes and they
stuff
could vote
like
and
that,
everything.
Being butch and femme or identifying as such was looked down upon a lot because people would assume that you were trying to emulate heterosexual relationships.
Mm-hmm. You were trying to be a man in a relationship.
Yeah, basically. Which is, it's not that. It's not.
No. Hence the reason the question, who's the man of the relationship, is kind of offensive.
Yeah. But a lot of people would assume that, and it was like, if you identified as butch, or even the femme sometimes, in that time period where it was kind of out of style, you were kind of like why are you identifying as something oppressive for us?
Yeah.
Why are you bringing that up? Why can't we just be lesbians? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that grew into something like big because the bar culture back then was so much butch and femme.
Yeah.
And drag queens and femboys and stuff like that.
It went into a lot of directions there.
And then those spaces got almost completely demolished. Mm-hmm. And that kind of subculture went kind of underground because it was kind of a no-no.
Yeah.
So after that came out, we see kind of a resurgence of this with mask girls. Mm-hmm. Mask girls are kind of different than butches, I think, because butches are very... has our own identifications. When I think of butchness, people will disagree with me on this. Mm-hmm. I don't think a butch has to necessarily be a lesbian. A butch is a masculine presenting woman who likes feminine masculinity.
So what's the difference to you between mask and tomboy? Or do you think that mask is just a grown-up version of a tomboy?
Mask is like a grown-up version of a tomboy, to me. But I think that what people kind of don't worry about, which they should right now with the mask girls, I think, in my opinion, as society has moved on, a lot of what it means to be a male in society has changed. Mm-hmm. If you watch the videos from back then when our parents were kids in the 50s, it was standard for men to be kind of gentleman-y.
I wish we could bring that back, please.
Yeah, that's kind of the difference now.
Honestly, like, just a little bit of a side note here. Can we please bring back, like, old mobsters, like, old gangsters? Not like the current gangsters who wear their pants around their ankles, but, like, old mobster gangsters who used to actually, like, dress up and, be chivalrous towards women and just be generally gentlemanly. And they used to dress in, like, suits and everything. And I'm like, what happened? Gangsters used to be so cool, and now they just look so stupid. Everyone's like, no, that's the new cool. And I'm like, no, you're just dumb. Okay, sorry.
So, moving forward into this time now, there's a lot of... With men sometimes, or even boys growing up, there's a lot of, like, songs about, like, cheating on girls and fucking a lot of bitches and all of that.
A lot of that
stuff.
sort of
toxic masculinity.
I was going to say, it's a lot of toxic stuff. It's teaching young men and young boys, this is what you should aspire to be. And that is kind of disgusting.
And that's kind of like the societal masculinity that you see.
Especially when you hear a lot of them rapping about how they want to get, high every night. As you said, they want to do a bunch of things with a bunch of ladies that I'm sure are very lovely if they would just take the chance to get to know them.
Yeah.
Wanting to join the chain gang and everything else. And it's like, is that really what you want to be aspiring towards? Like, wanting to have sex with women, get drunk, get high, party, and then go to jail. probably for murder. Like, is that really what we want to be teaching boys?
In my opinion, that's kind of the difference between butchness and masked girls these days, is that they come from two different eras of how masculinity is presented.
Right. So masked girls are more modern.
They're more kind of like sex forward, kind of like the thirst trappy. Yeah. I'm not saying if you're a masked girl, you have to be thirst trappy. It's more just like modern, where being butch is a lot. I think people are gonna be like, you're just like, because you probably don't even know this yet. I identify as butch.
Yeah,
honestly, just because I'm not masked in the way that I am. Charlie is more masked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Charlie is a little bit more. If I said she reminds me of a bunch of the girls that do the more masked TikToks and everything else. Like, it's much more that kind of Gen X sort of thing, whereas yours seems a little bit more. I don't want to say traditional, because that's not what it is.
I want to say timeless.
That's kind of the thing, though. Like, that's kind of what my brain is going back to. Yours is. I almost said it is a little more ancient. That's not
ancient,
right either,
it's an old style.
There we go. It's an older style.
Because what makes me happy is not like, and this is okay if that like maskedness makes you happy, because like I never really found myself within being a masked lesbian, because it was more like I'm a little bit more shy when it comes to sex. I'm a little bit more reserved. I'm also a what can I do for you person.
You're a people pleaser.
Yeah. And as much as I am into style, I'm not really into style.
No, and I think that is one of those huge defining differences, where I feel like butch girls don't really care quite as much about the aesthetic side of things, whereas I feel like a lot of masked girls... I feel like they try a lot harder, not for masculinity necessarily, but more towards the androgyny side of things.
Yes, it's always evolving, right? But I think that butch and mask people can live in harmony. But also, I think there are a lot of butch women that are into like the fashion, but it's very like timeless, very like suit and tie, bow tie, stuff like that. That's really fun. Oh my gosh, I'm in so many butch fashion Facebook pages because they're so cool. It's really nice to see older women being butch and living, because not that long ago it was very not okay.
Well, I think that's why it's so interesting and so nice to see, I don't want to say old women, because they're not old, but like an older generation than even I am. Being able to still have the ability to come out, because it's seen as like a very young thing now, where it's like, kids come out all the time. But I'm sure that there are still a lot of that older generation who have been hiding it for so long that it's hard for them to come forward and finally admit it, not just to themselves, but to the people around them. So I think it's so nice to be able to see some of these women coming forward and being able to say, yes, this is a part of who I am. I've hidden it for so long, but I'm finally, it's acceptable enough now that I feel safe enough to come out.
There's butch women who have been butch all their lives. They grew up tomboys. They grew up in societies that very much look down on them. A lot of them, it's kind of a sore subject, because even today, there's situations where if you are presenting more mask or more butch, it is kind of assumed, if you have any older mentors, that you will be discriminated against for it at some point.
That's so unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. There's so many bad things that happened not even a long time ago. Like, I've heard stories, because I have a lot of people that I know who are butch and who I like to listen to just because they're my elders, I feel like.
Well, you don't really have anyone in your immediate life that you can kind of go to, so I think it's only natural for you to go and seek them out for yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure, because that's kind of my specific community. That's where I feel at home.
Yeah.
And there's always like I got bullied all the time as a kid, and I was walking down the street and someone tried to chase me down with their car and started yelling dyke at me, because you're obviously an outcast.
Back in that day. I absolutely hate that.
Yeah, it sucks.
That's disturbing.
It sucks. And there's always like, excuse me.
Okay.
The whole thing of like, a lot of bullying back in the day, especially a lot from the guys who are like, you're a dyke, you're a bulldagger, I can switch you.
Ugh.
Like, corrective rape was
Disgusting.
huge thing back then.
You just haven't had the good sex yet. Yeah. My magical penis will completely change the way you think and feel.
Men and their penises, man. Yeah.
Actually,
What?
this is gonna sound
Your
wrong.
penis?
No, my mom.
Your mother's penis?
No, my mom and I were talking about this the other day, and that's why this sounds weird. My mom and I were talking about penises the other day.
Yeah.
Actually, we were talking about, there was a gentleman a little while ago that sent you some unsolicited dick pics. And I was talking to my mom about it, and I had said, why do men feel like this is a good idea? Has this ever worked for any man out there? Like, I know that we actually have a few men in the community that listen to us. So please tell me, has an unsolicited dick pic ever gotten you anywhere with anyone, male or female? Like, I need to know. But Tracy and I were kind of talking about this whole idea where it was just like, men, for whatever reason, seem to think that, you know, when they're attracted to someone, naturally that someone just wants their penis.
Yeah.
Where it's like, men's magical penis, it's like, oh, this girl's hot, I'm gonna hit on her. You know what she wants? A picture of my willy.
Yeah.
No one says that.
A picture of my willy.
And no one says that. No one wants it. But that goes back to that whole idea that for whatever reason, men seem to think their magical penises will fix everything. I'm here to tell you, as an asexual, no. You're welcome for that PSA. No.
Before you send something, think, why? Why am I doing this?
Before you send something, think, do I really want to send a picture of my penis? Because the person on the receiving end is probably going to laugh at it and then block me.
I don't know if they think about that.
I feel like they don't. I've been sent a couple of unsolicited dick pics, and like immediately my first thing is just always block.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no.
I don't want to deal with it.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to know who you are as a person, because obviously you're nothing but a dick. Obviously. And on that note, we're going to take a short break. All right, we are back.
Welcome back from our little break.
Ha. So, in general, I feel like the lesbian community, I mean, obviously there are still some gatekeepers. Have you kind of experienced, I don't want to say hate towards being butch, but do you feel like you experience any sort of gatekeeping or discrimination because of the way you identify? Almost like, oh, you're trying too hard to be a quote-unquote boy? Like, do you experience any of that?
No, I don't experience that. What I more of experience is a lack of representation, I think. Because this is what I personally believe. Because being butch was so... You wanted to hide. You wanted to slip under the radar. The radar.
Are you sure you want to go into, like...
I just can't say words
radio
today.
technology, because I don't think you can even pronounce the words right anymore.
I can't even say a word. Anyways, you wanted to pass underneath the radar. You didn't want to get hurt. A lot of butches worked in factories with men back in the day. Just because that's where the only place where you just are needed for your manpower, basically.
Exactly.
But I think that because of that reason, a lot of butches are very much like, keep to yourself. Don't branch out. Don't talk about it. Especially a lot of butches who grew up in places where it wasn't very accepted.
I feel like it is very much kept close to the chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if you are visibly presenting masculine and butch, you still don't really talk about it all that much.
And, you know, when you talk about representation, it's not something that I normally think about personally, just because I don't think of aesthetics that way. No. Maybe it's just because I've never been big on aesthetics like that. But when I really think about it, I feel like when you talk about there not being a lot of butch representation, even when I turn to things like media, I do absolutely have to agree with you, because the more I think about it, I feel like normally butch lesbians are used as punchlines.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like, lesbianism in general has become a lot more accepted, but when I think about whenever a lesbian is being made fun of, it's almost always butch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, oh, they're so manly that it's funny somehow, or, oh, like, they're just big and dumb like a man. And I'm just like, number one, what does that say about men? Number two, I don't know. I'm literally sitting here trying to think of any form of media that I have ever seen butch lesbians being portrayed in
or
a
even masculine
good
lesbians.
Way. Like in a non-punchline sort of way. Like, I can't think of anything.
Or even because a lot of lesbian representation in media, there's a lot more recently, but before it was more like male gazy lesbianism.
Very much that sort of like a male fantasy of what a lesbian should be like.
Oh, God.
We have seen more than enough of that. And, you know, I am glad to be seeing more movies and everything where, and even TV shows, you know, you and I were talking about the updated She-Ra, right? Where that sort of gayness is a lot more accepted. And in fact, they don't even seem to really consider it all too much. They treat the characters like normal characters.
Oh, that's so good.
It's not this whole blown up thing where it's like, oh, she came out as gay. It's just generally accepted. Yeah. Which I think is absolutely amazing.
That's a new thing.
It is. But as I said, like, I really can't think of any place that I see butch representation even with Mask, I feel like we are seeing a little bit more just because
sometimes
Mask, I feel like, is a little more generally accepted because it's more towards androgyny where you kind of straddle the line a little bit more.
A lot of it is you have to be acceptably attractive androgyny.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, that's what I'm thinking. Like, when I think of even some of the movies you and I have watched where there is more gay representation, it does seem a little more androgynous, like going back to that whole Kristen Stewart sort of thing. Where
the Ruby Rose thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's not really... They're starting to represent lesbianism, which I think is great. But there are so many branches of it. It's hard to make sure that we represent them all evenly and fairly. And it's just very unfortunate to me that this one side of lesbianism is kind of getting the, you know what, we need to reevaluate how we write these characters and view these characters and portray these characters. But I feel like the butch side of things absolutely is not getting a rewrite. It is still the punchline. It is still just every bit as kind of derogatory as it was before. And it's almost like no one's even considering it because it's like, oh, if you're butch, why does it matter? You shouldn't care. And it's like, I feel like you guys do care. Again, you just keep it close to the chest and don't say anything.
A lot of the times I think about it and I'm like, if there was more characters that were butch, I would have known sooner, you know? I would have felt that's why I
had someone to identify with.
I still remember hearing, not even knowing, but hearing Ring of Keys from Fun Home at a dance competition and feeling my gaydar ping and being like, weird.
Yeah.
And that Fun Home is a good butch representation. Well, not even butch, but more...
It's a good musical.
Yeah, it's a good musical.
It's a good musical,
Lesbians.
Period. Ooh, lesbian musicals. I mean,
is there anything... Oh my God.
Is there anything better in the world, lesbian musicals?
Changing
my major to Joan. I'm changing my major to sex with Joan.
That's like... if you're younger, that is like my generation's Little Miss Perfect.
Yeah,
so, from that one song, from that one musical, that's from TikTok. I don't know. But yeah, butch representation is so hard to find. There's more out there that is created by butches. There are a couple podcasts that I listen to, which is specifically butches.
Again, specifically you having to kind of go out of your way to find someone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Who you can kind of look up to.
Mm-hmm. There's a few out there that do it, but again, you just have to look for it. I wish that it was more normalized. It was more mainstream. Mm-hmm. Even like masculine women. Because I honestly, I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. People aren't gonna like it because a lot of people do look at butch as a specific lesbian type.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I will say I think of Stone Butch as a specific lesbian type. Butch itself, I don't think so. Because female masculinity can be portrayed by someone no matter your sexuality. That is of my belief. Mm-hmm. There are women out there I know, especially women who are farmers who work on the farm, who aren't housewives. They have their hands dirty. They have the short hair.
I have to say, I mean, putting it bluntly, look at my sister. My sister has always been more of that tomboy type. Mm-hmm. She has always been the type to rather be in the barn rather than, in the fancy dining hall.
Yeah.
She has a boyfriend. She's perfectly happy with him. She never wears dresses, never wears skirts, never wears heels. She's completely fine with, and honestly, she does have a lot of men's clothing. Yeah. Most of her sweaters are men's sweaters. Like, she's just more comfortable in that type of clothing. You'll never see her in tights. You'll never see her in leggings. Like, she only ever wears jeans. She won't even really touch sweatpants for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those things where I feel like you don't have to be gay to kind of have...
To be masculine as a female. You don't have to be gay.
No, and I think that's a bit of a misrepresentation.
Yeah, I think so too. Because there's so many girls out there who just feel so dogged down by the aspect of super feminine femininity.
I mean, even for me, I'm a fairly feminine woman, all things considered. And I'll be really blunt, I cannot be bothered with all of the crap with makeup and hair and everything else. And I would still say that I'm fairly feminine. And yet I look at, that if I said Kylie Jenner culture, do you know what I mean?
It's a lot of pressure.
The hours and hours and hours that go into perfecting your hair and makeup and the way you look and toning your butt and everything else. And I'm just like, I can't be bothered. I have food to eat, my dude.
It's so much pressure. I mean, there are girls out there who like doing that stuff. I know my girlfriend, she's femme. She likes to do the skincare. She loves the dresses. And that's great if it's empowering to you. But as someone who played that role for so long, I remember feeling like I have to wear this.
Yeah. And
to be accepted.
No.
I have to wear this dress to be normal.
And I hate that.
Yeah, I know, right? I wish it was so much more mainstream, because if it was, then it might have been more acceptable for me.
That's the thing, is that, everyone yells about representation, and a lot of people say, why does it matter? It matters because it can help lead you, I don't want to say down the right path, but how do I phrase this? I guess it kind of leads you more towards self-discovery. It is very hard to learn about yourself when you don't have any references to go, that is how I feel. That is how I think. I think that represents me. Let me do some research on this. Let me find out what this is. Let me see if I can identify with this. It becomes a lot harder, and you get lost because so much of it is just pushed in your face. It's you should be this, you should be this, you should be this. And it's very hard when you're not that, and you question yourself. That's where the struggle is.
That's the hardest part.
It is.
I remember when I cut my hair because I think it's
I feel like you were actually very shy to show off. Like, you were happy that you would cut your hair.
Yeah.
It took you
I'm a scared person.
It took you quite some time to actually post any photos.
Yeah.
And my mom had actually asked me, why hasn't Aliyah posted it? And I told her point blank, I was like, I know Aliyah. Mm-hmm. I think she's scared of the way people are going to interpret her.
Of course.
And she's happy that she did it, but she's so afraid of what other people are going to think that she's still trying to hide it.
I just need a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Honestly. It is that notion of I am going to be judged for this. And I feel like with the representation, I feel like media tends to be what it shouldn't be to be. I think media should be a mirror from reality onto stories, and not the stories onto reality.
And I think that's where we've gotten things very confused, where it's only the most beautiful people, only the most this type of person, this one type of person. You want to be Kylie Jenner. You want to be, just that sort of archetype.
The one aesthetic.
Do you know what I mean? The one aesthetic. The hourglass figure. The, just the full face of makeup. The perfect hair. The perfect body. And it's just like, as you said, instead of seeing reality mirrored back at us, now we are, weirdly enough, because we see so much of this, we are trying so hard to emulate that one thing. But the trouble is that is one archetype, and there are so many others, and it's such a struggle to get by the fact that that's not you. You don't really even want to be that, and yet you feel like you have to be. You feel like you have to be that. You feel like you should want to be that, and when you don't, you feel broken. It. You're like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I want that?
I'm a broken person because I'm not like everyone else that I see.
And
that's why representation is so important.
It is. And and that's why when people say, oh, it's not that big a deal. It kind of is. It's not really a big deal to you because maybe you feel like you have been represented. That's why it doesn't seem like a big deal. But for those of us who feel like we aren't properly represented, it is a big deal because we feel broken. Because there's nothing to say, this is a legitimate thing that you can be. There is no reflection for us. What's staring us in the face isn't us. And it sucks.
It does.
And yet you also have to wonder how much of this is because we try so hard to put labels on ourselves. What would happen if we just all dropped the labels? And I hate to say it, but I feel like the LGBT community is really bad for over-labeling things. Oh, it's this very specific thing. Let me split hairs to make this whole other subcategory.
There's some split attraction model discourse in there, which is a whole nother huge giant topic.
It's just, I would love to see the day that we can just drop all the labels and pretenses and everything. I
just wish there was more celebration into the many ways a human can be.
Yes. Not just that's what I think. One type of person and not just the labels behind it. But yeah, that's it for today. I know kind of a more serious topic, but
serious but good.
I feel like it's a topic that needs a little more attention.
Needs to be talked about, yes.
But that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, we'll see you later. Take it gay by gay, guys.
Bye.